let's talk about it for a couple of seconds, I guess. Let's just, boom, get it on the screen. We do have our police officer, retired police officer, somewhat, right? Former corrupt police officer, and I was right when I was like, did I pick that up right? He was Mesmer's colleague, and he actually did drug trafficking as well, and this is how he got blackmailed into doing that murder. But you always gotta ask yourself, what are the consequences of this shit, right? On the plus side, nobody's gonna find out you were a crooked hack. Well, Johann wouldn't profit from that, so I don't know if he would even do that, but I guess he could be doing that just to teach people a lesson, or to be like, prevent that people are going after him. But then again, in the investigation, wouldn't it come up that he was like, hey, by the way, there was this guy who wanted to blackmail me into murdering people, right? That could be a plea deal. I don't know. On the other hand, you killed some innocent people, right? You killed even somebody who is a bystander. I mean, you couldn't foresee that. You took parents away from a child. You potentially traumatized a child. You traumatized yourself. Got yourself a lot of feelings of guilt and whatnot. You made it impossible for you to exist further in the place you are right now. So you had to flee, right? You were, in the end, as a consequence, you couldn't see that coming, but you were then part of a syndicate that had you basically in the palm of their hands. You had to redo your entire life. Obviously, you got a bunch of money, right? And you made a wife and whatnot, and right. But at some point in time, the past is gonna deal with you, especially if you have these guilty feelings, and that he had. So he started doing investigations, and what happens to people who ask too many questions? They're gonna get killed. This is like French countryside mansion, really nice angles that we're using here in general. And we do see throughout the beginning, he does have a heart, right? He is a person who is not like a callous murderer or whatever. He has his own concerns. Yeah, obviously he made a bunch of mistakes and he murdered people and whatnot. That's not to be you shouldn't talk that down, right? It's very severe in terms of like morality and whatnot. But he has regrets, and he's trying to solve them any way we can, and that is what happens in psychology, right? What we deal with in psychology as well. If you've done something that you are looking back on, that you feel like you've made a mistake, you're regretting it. It's very hard to deal with that because it's a thing that was a mistake. It was an error in your life, and it was so severe that you are still not okay with processing this decision properly. So what does your brain do? Constantly processes it, right? In dreams, in quiet moments, in those moments where you should be calm, where you should relax, where you should de-stress. The stress is building up because there's this thing in the back of your mind, this decision you made, that is gnawing on you, and you can't revert it. We can't turn back time. We can't revert that decision, right? And we can't revert the consequences of that decision. And as a result of that, it's always in our mind. And it's insane how Johann manages to get all of these people through different means, right? He's not just a person who comes to mentally unstable people and manipulates them to do bad deeds. He's also the kind of person who goes to a corrupt police officer who's selling drugs and tells him, well, I'm gonna tell them what you're doing if you don't do this thing that is even worse what you were doing, right? And after that, well, technically he has even more in his hands. He can be like, okay, you murdered someone. I could tell the police, but if you do this other favor for me, but he doesn't do that, mind you. And I think that is very clever of Johann, because he doesn't bind people to himself, at least not that we know of, and not for a long time. He uses people to a specific capacity, right, for whatever purpose he has seeing them to be perfectly fitted in this very moment that he needs them to. And then he discards them. He gets rid of them. He makes sure they are not able to talk anymore. Sometimes he outright kills them. Other times he puts them into positions where they have enough trouble in their own life, or where they have a problem like they would never talk about it, right? And then at some point in time, though, he's actually gonna send somebody after you if he has found the perfect person to send after you, right? Because obviously he's constantly rotating people. It's like chess pieces on a board. Although, no, I think the better metaphor here would actually be shogi pieces, because in shogi, if you are beating the piece of an opponent, right, and throw it off the board, you can actually use it for yourself and then put it in yourself. I don't know if that's under every circumstance, but under many circumstances. So this is what he's doing, right? He is constantly getting in new people and getting rid of other people. Obviously, that leaves a giant trail of dead people in his wake. But if he keeps that up, and if he's clever enough, if he's intelligent enough, if he's socially manipulative enough, which we know him to be, then this keeps going perpetually until somebody will finally be there who can actually overthrow him before he is able to prevent that. I think the one thing I would say that is probably gonna be the downfall of Johann is Wolf, Tenma, and Nina / Anna, because he kept them alive too long. They are involved in his story. He wants them to be involved in his story. He has a personal, emotional connection to each and every one of them that is specific. He has things he wants each and every one of them to be in relation with him. He needs that to some degree. Having that relation, having somebody pay attention to him, maybe that's one of the reasons. Witness his grand scheme. He has put them into unique positions where they can do very little with outside help, right? Tenma is a convicted, right, suspect, while Anna is basically parentless and on the streets, and the only connection she does have on a familiar level is Johann. So, and she has done a lot of crazy shit herself at this point, where you don't know if that isn't gonna get her in trouble if she should come to the police and be like, look, this is my brother, he's been doing this and that and whatnot. And she doesn't have the receipts to back it up. But at the same time, these are two people who potentially want to kill him. Wolf wants him dead too, but he doesn't want to kill him personally. But he works against him, obviously, in many ways. And they're going to be his downfall because he doesn't want to kill them. He refuses to kill them. And I guess this is his humanity. Not in a benevolent or he's a good guy after all way, but his humanity in the way that he clings to them as kind of stabilization pieces, right? Foundational pieces that he needs in his life, even if they're just passively following his trail. Yeah. But yeah, we have the story of Müller's son, or Mr. Müller, haunted by the innocents he killed, trying to build his new life, right? Struggling with that. But still doing the detective work. And this is when suddenly a wild Nina or a wild Anna appears. She's actually identifying herself as Nina here, which I find very interesting because she switches between the Nina and the Anna, much like Johann switches between all his different identities. She can do it too. Right? But obviously this has been her identity for, I think, well beyond 10 years, so it makes perfect sense. Must have been like, I don't know, 21st birthday it was, I think, when Johann appeared, so it was like, it's a very weird number to choose, by the way. 21 doesn't have a lot of significance here in Europe. You can drink alcohol with 18. You get your driver's license with 17, 18. Some alcohol you can already drink with 16. You can smoke with 18. Yeah, there's not a lot that you can't do at the age of 21. at the age of 18 that you can do at the age of 21. Either way, she wants the info, she wants the scoop, and she obviously gets it. I think it's really great how she manages to keep that control up, right? And obviously she has a lot of desires for revenge probably inside of her, a lot of like these feelings, these unprocessed feelings of getting justice and bringing the people to justice that killed her innocent family that were not involved, and she knows that very much. But the moment she's supposed to do that, and that is an amazing shot, by the way, that like from down up and her hair blowing in the wind, and we're looking at the open sky behind her, her eyes wide open, and like inner turmoil and conflict as she hears him mumbling the people she has been observing for the last couple of weeks. So she has a relation. She knows the little boy, she knows the woman, and she knows they're innocent and they're involved and all of that. So this, right? Mercy stays her hand here. She doesn't want to do it. She knows it might be right, he might have it coming, but they don't. And she doesn't want to traumatize more families, I think. At least that's my thought process here. Funny Guinness. A little Guinness advertisement in there. So they're hatching out a plan, right? Robert is somehow involved. And the interesting thing is that she spared him here. Might actually have saved her life, low-key. It might have saved her life long-term. Because she was abducted then, and Robert actually wanted her killed. I do wonder why. We'll talk about that in later. Great focus pull. She has 2 guns now. Holy shit! At some point, she's gonna be running around with a full arsenal. I'll tell you. Maybe it's his gun or the gun of the detective that she picked up here. But yeah, she's got 2 now. Watch the fuck out. Yeah. This is difficult, right? This is difficult. I mean, if I was the wife, I'd be like, what the hell is happening to my husband? But yeah. And this, again, this angle that we also saw when he killed the, like after he and his partner killed the parents of Nina, was this weird, just like flat angle from up there looking down at the floor, but still having like the walls within sight, where we do have like almost like you're walking into a circle of people talking to one another. But he doesn't have power here, right? Robert is in full control. He knows he's got the family down squad, right? He knows what's at stake for Mueller here. If he promises him to not harm him, which he doesn't have to keep that promise, but then he'll give over what he needs to, right? Which is any traces of Robert himself. And of Johann, possibly, that he did. Great shot. Most of the face in darkness, and a couple, especially around the eye and one of the jawlines, in the light, which makes him seem very, very sinister and like an evil, callous, cold person. This is how you employ lighting. This is great. He's in full control at all times. He doesn't believe at any moment that he's in danger, which is true in this case. But I do think, amazing, by the way, also this rundown building. It looks really great. Yeah, looks fantastic, that rundown building. Looks like something abandoned in the French countryside. Even with like the rooftops and whatnot. The tile sets. And Nina's basically... This is like the thing I don't get. First of all, he compliments her eyes, which is like blue eyes. Hello. But he's not one of the extremists. So I'm like, does he mean that in like a Aryan Nazi weird kind of way? Or does he mean it in a way of just her having beautiful eyes, which is then going into the sexually creepy thing? Yeah. Both of these aren't great. Because he says like, you beautiful eyes, what a shame. And I'm like, what does he mean? What the fuck does he mean? I was really genuinely surprised that he was gonna kill her. I wonder what he intended to do here in terms of like, because I mean, thinking about it, wouldn't Johan be really mad about that, or does he have his own goals and thinks he can use Johan to and instrumentalize him in some way? Does he have limited information? Is there something he doesn't know? Because, well, if you know Johan, you know that he ain't gonna let anybody kill Nina for any reason. One of his fatal flaws, probably. Yeah. And Mueller has a conscience, and he, holy fucking shit, bro, just killed 4 people. Like, he won a duel without getting any hits, without being shot. 4-1, or 4-1.5, because Anna actually got a gun in between and was able to threaten at least. And we do know how weapon focus works, right? If a weapon is in play, you do automatically, your attention gets drawn to that. So assume Anna gets the gun. The people seeing that, witnessing that, will be like, oh shit, there's somebody else with a gun who wants to defend themselves now. And this is how you get distracted, and then you can get shot by the other person. He wanted to redeem himself. He felt like it's the right thing to do. There's something inside of him, right? The good old cop, right? Who wanted to do justice by that. But in the last moment, the person dying lifts his gun and wants to shoot. I don't know if he wanted to shoot Mueller or if he wanted to shoot Anna, because Anna was the goal originally. Either way, either Mueller jumps in front of Anna, or he shoots at Mueller, and Anna can actually not get in between. And we end up with this scene that is kind of almost feels like a recent anime that I'm reminded. Oh, look at her face. She's like, talking nicely, being like, everything's gonna be fine for him, which is, you gotta admire the emotional capacity it takes to look at somebody who killed your foster parents that you loved, and know that in their last moments they did something heroic, they did something that was good, and maybe they regretted killing your parents, and being there for them, being as nice as Anna is here to him. That is insane. That takes an immense capacity for empathy and a capacity to actually just, also a little bit of capacity to lie to people, but also very, very much Tenma, in my opinion. More and more Tenma. It's interesting how the 2 twins, right? The 2 twins more or less got saved by Tenma. Anna not as much, but Johan mainly. Interestingly enough, Johan just continued the way he did before, right? Due to his trauma and all of the stuff happening, and being the way he is. And Anna, at the same time, moved in a different direction, right? She moved in the direction of maybe kind of taking after him. Maybe kind of trying to be like him. Even if she's not consciously doing that, in a way. Another interesting aspect of this, a very beautiful aspect of this, I think, is Johan, in a way, also does things to impose Tenma, does he not? Right? The whole ploy, right, framing him, obviously, to bring him into a situation where uniquely he can't confess what Johan is doing, despite his former credibility as a doctor, like as one of the best doctors, one of the most upstanding people, but at the same time follows Johan's footsteps and witnesses what he does. And in a way, I mean, I guess there's a thing, not all killers are like that, right? Not all psychopaths are like that. Not all people who are serial killers are like that, but there's a lot of them that want that attention, right? That personal connection to police force or anybody who is just involved in their case. And in this case, I do feel like to thank him for saving his life, he's actually showing Tenma his masterpiece. He gives him center stage in all of that. And that gives him a lot of gratification, I do feel. Now, obviously, I do not have like a scientific basis to put that on, right? A theory framework where I'm like, okay, this is the theory in psychology that says this and that. Serial killers especially are a very rare breed, so it's not that easy to kind of come up with patterns, especially since a lot of them are quite different in how they approach things. Were quite different in how they approach things in the past. Obviously, we can only study those that were in the past. But there is some connotation that people, or some common denominator in many of these cases where the serial killers actually have a personal connection with the ones following them, with the ones trying to stop them. And they flaunt their deeds. They're almost like a work of art to them, right? A piece of themselves they put out there in order to show them, like, look at me, this is who I am. And this is, I guess, also part of the grain of truth that is within the messages that Johan has been writing to Tenma and Anna and all the other people, where he was like, look at me, the monster inside of me. It doesn't matter if he has multiple personalities. In this specific case, it doesn't matter if he has multiple personalities or if he's actually manipulating us. It doesn't matter if he feels like there's a monster inside of him, or if he feels he is the monster. Either way, there's this piece that says, look at me, and this is what he wants, right? This is the grain of truth in the potential lie. But away from that tangent, again, fucking poor bastard in a way, but also he had it coming, so bittersweet, I guess. This reminds me of Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Yeah, I mean, obviously Monster came way before that, but I wonder if some director or animator did take inspiration from the monster scene when they created Cyberpunk Edge Runners, with that one scene in that one episode where David is sitting in the car and we do have that light slowly coming into his, right? The morning light. Was it the morning light? Either the morning light or, right, either dawn or dusk. The orange sun being on his face. A lot of shapes, a lot of shadows, a lot of character in there. But we do see there's nothing moving anymore in that face, and it is dead. And we look at not the sunrise in this case, I don't know what it was in Edge Runners, but the sundown. And we close on that. Another excellent episode. I think this is a very good standalone, so we're gonna do this standalone, since I do have to study for exams and whatnot. We'll do this standalone. It's gonna be fine. And next one does sound like it might be multiple episodes, with 𝕥𝕚𝕞𝕡𝕤 being in the picture again. I do assume that Eva might be also in the picture, so gonna get ready for that, because that's gonna be a shit show. Tenma versus 𝕥𝕚. Because the title is 𝕥𝕚's Trap. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Tenma and 𝕥𝕚. I do wonder what comes out of that. Is 𝕥𝕚 gonna die? Is 𝕥𝕚 gonna be finally realize that Tenma is not the one, right? That Johan is not Tenma's personality. I mean, it's a good theory, right? If you see stuff from the outside like that. It's always very doubtful to believe that like a 10 or 12 or 14-year-old, however old he was at that point, was murdering grown-ups. With poison of all things. I mean, poison is the easiest thing, I feel. But how did he know, right? How did he know they'd pick up that candy? I mean, all of that shit. Very, very interesting. That was Monster, episode 21. I do hope you enjoyed it. Check out the discussion. I'm an idiot, right? We are in the discussion. Check out the reaction for this video right here if you want to, after the credits, or in the description down below. There's also a link. I would appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.